I've never been the kind of man to cry easily. After 2 tours in Afghanistan and more classified deployments than I can count, I thought I'd seen the worst of humanity. I've held dying brothers in my arms, pulled civilians from burning buildings, and stared death in the face more times than I care to admit. But nothing, and I mean nothing, ever prepared me for what I felt the night I found that video on my wife's old tablet. But let me not get ahead of myself. My name's Nathan Grant. I'm 42 years old. I served in the U.S. Army for most of my adult life. Special operations, recon, the works. These days I work private security for a federal facility outside Houston. Steady job, good pay, low risk compared to my past life. I live just outside the city in a modest house with my wife Allison and her daughter Emily, though I've raised that girl since she was 7, so in my heart, she's mine. Allison and I met at a VFW charity fundraiser about 8 years ago. She was volunteering, recently divorced, trying to put her life back together. I was between assignments, tired, angry, and, if I'm being honest, dangerously numb to the world. She brought me back. That's how it felt. Her warmth, her sense of humor, the way she'd touch my arm while talking like I was the only man in the room, it made me feel like a human again. And Emily, that shy, awkward little girl who wouldn't even make eye contact with me at first, clung to me after only a few weeks. "You're not my dad," she'd whisper when upset. But when she was sick or scared, it was my hand she reached for. I married them both in my heart. Life wasn't always easy. My deployments never really stopped, even when I technically left the Army. Government contracts, private jobs, anything that needed someone who could handle chaos without blinking. It kept us afloat, but it also meant that I was gone often. Still, we made it work. Allison never complained. She'd text me cute photos, cook my favorite meals when I got back, leave notes in my bags. And Emily, now 17, was thriving. Good grades, solid friends, even started calling me dad without flinching. That meant everything to me. But this last time, something felt off. I'd just finished a 6-week assignment down in Eagle Pass, high-risk surveillance work, long nights, zero contact. When I walked through the door, they greeted me with smiles, hugs, even a home-cooked dinner. But the connection wasn't there. You know that gut feeling, that static in the air you can't name but feel? That was it. Emily avoided eye contact again. She'd retreat to her room for hours. Allison was still affectionate, but something about her was distant, like her body was there, but her mind was across town. I chalked it up to the long time apart, maybe hormones. Hell, Emily's a teenager, right? But something clawed at the back of my mind. Then 3 days after I got home, I found the old Samsung tablet in a drawer under the kitchen counter. It used to be Allison's before she got a new iPad. I wasn't even snooping. I just needed to look up an old recipe she used to follow. The thing wouldn't boot, battery long dead, but I plugged it in out of curiosity. 10 minutes later, it lit up. And that's when everything started to unravel. It's strange, isn't it? How a single piece of plastic and glass can hold 1,000 secrets. I didn't know then, but by the time I closed that tablet an hour later, I'd never see my wife the same way again.
I stared at the screen, unsure of why my hands were suddenly shaking. It had booted into Allison's old home screen. The wallpaper was still a blurry picture of our backyard garden, taken sometime last spring. I remember planting those damn tomatoes with her, sweating under the Texas sun while she kept saying I was doing it too aggressively. I remember how she laughed, grabbed my hand and pressed it to her cheek, dirt and all. But that warmth felt like a lifetime ago now. I wasn't looking for anything, I swear to God. I just tapped on the Photos app, mostly curious to see if there were any cute old pictures of Emily. Maybe I was being sentimental. Instead, what I saw hit me in the gut like a punch. The gallery had hundreds of photos, selfies, recipes, screenshots, the usual. But there was one hidden folder I almost missed. It was labeled with just a period. A single dot. I tapped it. At first it looked empty. Just a couple thumbnails loading slowly. But then they came in. 3 videos, all with random alphanumeric names like they were autosaved or hidden deliberately. The first one was only 20 seconds long. I hesitated. My throat was dry, and something inside me, that soldier's instinct maybe, screamed not to look. But I did. And what I saw, Jesus. It was filmed in our bedroom. The camera was tilted slightly sideways, propped up on a surface. At first, all I saw was Allison sitting on the bed in a black silk robe I bought her 2 Christmases ago. Her hair was done, makeup heavier than usual. Then 2 women walked into frame. I recognized them instantly. One was our neighbor from 2 houses down, Trish, a yoga instructor who sometimes came over for wine nights. The other, my stomach turned. It was Hannah, the mother of Emily's best friend. I'd been to birthday parties with her, helped her move a couch once. Now I was watching her lean in and kiss my wife full on the mouth, while Trish rubbed Allison's thigh. I dropped the tablet like it burned me. It slid off my lap and hit the floor with a dull thud, but the video kept playing. The audio tinny and surreal. Moaning. Laughing. The kind of gasps you know aren't acting. I snatched it back up and hit pause. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my ears. For a second I just sat there, frozen, staring at my own reflection in the black screen. I was trembling. This wasn't just some old fling. This wasn't a mistake. This was our bedroom, our house, filmed deliberately, with 2 people we knew, and it didn't look like a one-time thing. I opened the next video almost on autopilot. This one was longer, 7 minutes. It started the same way, except this time I noticed the date. It was filmed 2 weeks ago, while I was down south chasing cartel scouts on ranch land. Allison had texted me that night saying she was exhausted and going to bed early. But there she was, right there in the same robe, except this time all 3 women were laughing, pouring wine, stripping each other slowly. I felt sick. Something inside me cracked open. And worse, much worse, a thought began to creep in. Did Emily know? Had she seen these women come and go? Is this what had her acting strange? My hands balled into fists. I couldn't think clearly. I didn't know if I wanted to scream or puke. And the worst part, the most humiliating part, was that Allison looked happy. Not just lustful, not just excited, but genuinely, deeply, blissfully happy. I hadn't seen that face on her in years, not even with me. And it tore something out of me I didn't know I could lose. This wasn't just betrayal. This was intentional, repeated, and hidden in plain sight.
The next morning, I watched her like a stranger watches a threat. Allison moved through the kitchen with mechanical grace, pouring coffee, slicing toast, asking if I wanted eggs like nothing was wrong. Like I hadn't seen her mouth on our neighbor's neck just hours earlier on a damn tablet she thought was forgotten. I couldn't even look her in the eye. My stomach clenched every time she spoke. I told myself to wait, to plan, not to lash out. 20 years in the military had taught me patience, and now I used every ounce of it to stay calm. I wanted to grab her by the shoulders and scream, "Why? Why them? Why in our house?" But instead, I just sat there, watching her fake normal. "You okay?" she asked, her voice light. "You didn't sleep much." I nodded, barely. "Just tired." She smiled softly. That smile, God, it made me sick. Later that afternoon, I watched from the upstairs window as she chatted with Trish in the driveway, laughing about something on her phone. It was the same laugh I heard in the video, the same tilt of the head, like nothing had changed,
like she wasn't carrying an entire lie in her eyes. And what twisted me up even more was Emily, my daughter, my little girl who barely said a word these days. She'd come home from school, head down, earphones in, straight to her room. No hugs, no, "Hey, Dad," nothing. It used to be different. She used to jump into my arms when I came back from deployment. Now, I was a ghost in my own house. That night, after Allison went to bed, I stood outside Emily's room for a solid 10 minutes before I knocked. "Em," I said softly, "you awake?" Silence. Then a muffled, "Yeah?" I opened the door. She was lying on her stomach, scrolling through something on her phone, hoodie up. I stepped inside and closed the door. "Can we talk?" She didn't look at me, just shrugged. "About what?" My voice caught in my throat. How the hell do you ask your teenage daughter if she knows her mom is cheating? Not just cheating, but turning your house into some kind of secret playground. Just, "You've seemed off lately. You okay?" She shrugged again. "I'm fine." "Are you sure?" She finally looked up at me. Her eyes were tired, guarded. She hesitated. "Are you okay?" That hit me. Hard. Because she knew. Maybe not everything, but enough. Enough to see the cracks. I forced a smile. "Yeah, just tired, I guess." She nodded, looked back at her phone. Conversation over. I stood there for a second longer, then quietly stepped out. That night, I lay in bed beside Allison, both of us facing each other. I couldn't sleep, could barely breathe. Every sound in the house felt amplified. The creak of pipes, the hum of the fridge, her soft breathing next to me. I remembered the third video. I hadn't watched it yet. I didn't want to, but some part of me needed to know how deep this went. At 3 a.m., I got out of bed, went into the garage, and watched it. This one was different. It was daytime. Filmed in the living room. All three women were there again, Trish, Hannah, and Allison, but this time they weren't hiding. Music played. There was a bottle of wine already open. They danced, kissed, stripped, and halfway through, the camera angle shifted, like someone else was holding it. My blood ran cold. It wasn't on a tripod anymore. Someone was filming. Someone else was there. A fourth person. And at one point, one of the women, I think it was Hannah, said, "You sure Emily won't be home yet?" Allison laughed. "She's with her dad's sister till 5. We've got time." My knees buckled. I sat down on the cold garage floor, the tablet slipping from my hands. This wasn't just betrayal. This was coordinated, planned, routine. And worse, they'd done it while I was gone, while I was risking my life for this family, for her. She knew exactly what she was doing. This wasn't about confusion or sexuality or midlife crisis. This was intentional humiliation. And somehow, my daughter, my sweet, quiet Emily, was stuck in the middle of all of it.
The next morning, I didn't go to work. I told my captain I had food poisoning. I shut off my phone. I stayed home and waited. Allison left around 10 a.m., like she always did on Wednesdays. Yoga and coffee with the girls, supposedly. But now I knew what those coffee dates really were. I waited 30 minutes, then followed her. I parked 2 blocks down from the cafe she usually mentioned and watched her car pull into a driveway. Not a yoga studio, not a cafe. It was Hannah's house. Of course. I sat in the car and stared at that door for a long time. Then I got out, walked right up to the side window, quietly, like we used to do during recon in Kandahar. Calm, focused, silent. I crouched low and peered in, and what I saw hit me harder than an IED. Allison was sitting on the couch, wineglass already in hand. Hannah sat beside her, and Trish, was across from them. All three women, laughing, touching, like this was just another Wednesday ritual. There was music playing, soft, suggestive, and on the table, my favorite whiskey, opened, half gone, like they'd celebrated with it. I backed away before they saw me, got in my car. I didn't storm in. I didn't scream. Not yet. I needed her to tell me to my face. I needed to hear the lie again. So I went home, waited. Around 4 p.m., she walked in, humming. I was at the kitchen table, staring at her. She stopped. "Hey," she said, "you're home early." "Didn't go in," I said flatly, not feeling well. She frowned slightly, concerned but cautious. "You okay?" "No," I said. "Sit down." She hesitated. "Why?" "Sit down." My voice was lower now, but tone I rarely used outside the field. She slowly pulled out the chair across from me and sat. I looked her in the eyes. "How long has it been going on?" She blinked. "What are you talking about?" "You, Trish, Hannah, the sex, the house, my house. How long?" Her lips parted slightly. Then, like clockwork, she tilted her head. "What do you even— Don't!" I snapped. "Don't insult me with another lie. I've seen the videos. I know everything." Her face drained of color. She leaned back slowly. Her hand trembled. For a second, there was pure silence. Then, she whispered, "You weren't supposed to— Weren't supposed to what? Find out? Know that you've been treating our home like some perverse club? That you've been using our daughter's schedule to plan orgies with the neighbors?" She flinched. "It's not like that. Don't lie to me again." She looked down. Then finally she said it. "It started during your last deployment. I was lonely. Hannah was there. Trish, too. One night we got drunk and what, just slipped into group sex in my living room? Was it an accident? It wasn't planned, but it felt freeing." I laughed. A dry, broken sound. "Freeing? You needed freedom, so you turned our house into a porn set?" "It was never about you," she said quickly. "It wasn't that I stopped loving you. It was—" "Bullshit. Don't you dare say you still love me." She looked away. Tears now. The fake kind. Defensive. "I didn't want to hurt you." "Then why record it? Why keep it on a device in my garage?" "Hannah filmed them. She said it was exciting. We never watched them again. I forgot they were even there." "You forgot that you filmed yourself fucking other women on my couch?" Her silence was the only answer. I stood up, walked to the drawer, pulled out the tablet, slammed it on the table. Her eyes widened. "Go ahead," I said. "Watch it. Let's watch what freedom looks like." She pushed it away. "I can't." "You already did. Multiple times, in our bedroom, with them, with the camera, in my house, with my daughter down the hall." That last part broke something in her. She buried her face in her hands. "I never meant for Emily to find out." "But you didn't care if she walked in. You just trusted she wouldn't. And now she barely talks to anyone. You think that's normal? You think she doesn't know?" She sobbed now, but I felt nothing. No pity. Just a deep, endless rage. A betrayal so personal it changed the shape of my own damn reflection. "Get out," I said. "What?" she whispered. "Get out. You don't live here anymore." "Where am I supposed to go?" "I don't care. Hannah's? Trish's? Maybe both? I don't give a shit. But you're not sleeping under this roof again." "But Emily—" "I'll tell her. I'll tell her everything.
You want honesty, Allison? You're about to get a full dose of it. She stood up slowly. Please, let's talk this through. You had 2 years to talk. You chose to fuck your friends instead. And with that, I walked out of the kitchen, slammed the door to the den behind me, and left her standing there, shaking, crying, exposed.
I didn't sleep that night. The house was too quiet, too haunted. Every creak in the wood, every gust of wind against the window, it all sounded like mockery. I could still hear Allison's voice echoing in my head, trying to explain something that had no explanation. She was gone by morning. She packed 2 bags and left while I was still locked in the den, pretending to rest. I heard the front door close at 6:14 a.m. sharp. That sound felt like a bullet. I sat there for hours after, just still, watching dust swirl in the morning light like it was some divine message I couldn't read. Around noon, I heard footsteps upstairs. Emily. I had no idea how much she knew. I had no idea how much she'd seen, or worse, heard. I went up and knocked. Her door was closed, light music playing inside, but quietly, like she didn't want to disturb a funeral. I spoke gently. "Can I come in?" No answer at first. Then a small, reluctant, "Yeah." I opened the door. She was sitting on her bed, knees up to her chest, hoodie on, eyes puffy like she hadn't slept either. She looked at me the way someone looks at a wounded animal, not afraid, but unsure what it might do next. "Mom left," I said, and my voice cracked. She nodded. "I know. I don't know what you've heard or what you've seen, but I need to be honest with you." She didn't look away. She was braver than I expected. "You found the videos," she said. Just like that. Flat. Numb. Like it was already old news to her. I froze. "How do you—" "I walked in on them once, a year ago. I was supposed to be at Sam's, but I forgot my charger. I came home and—" Her voice broke. "I heard them laughing. I thought it was you and Mom, but it was her and them." My stomach dropped through the floor. "Why didn't you say anything?" I didn't know how. I felt disgusting, like I'd done something wrong just for opening the door. And then she begged me not to tell you, said it was complicated, said I wouldn't understand. "She made you keep her secret?" Emily nodded. A tear slipped down her cheek. "I stopped trusting both of you. I didn't know who to believe. So I just shut down." I sat on the edge of the bed, crushed. "Emily, I am so sorry. You should have never been put in that position." "It's not your fault," she said, but I didn't believe her. It was my fault. All of it. For not noticing, for being blind, for thinking deployment was the only battlefield that mattered. I swallowed hard. "We try. Together. Counseling, if you want. Talking, if you're ready. But no more secrets, no more pretending things are fine. I won't lie to you. Ever." She gave the smallest nod, then leaned against me. That single gesture, her head on my shoulder, was the most painful and healing thing I'd felt in years. I held her for a long time, like if I let go, the rest of the house would collapse. And maybe it already had. Later that week, I saw Allison once more. She came to get the rest of her stuff. She didn't say much, just moved around like a ghost, eyes puffy, lips pressed into a line. Before she left, she stopped in the hallway. "I ruined everything," she said softly. I didn't reply. She looked down. "I never thought it would go that far. It started out as a joke, a dare. Then it became something else." I stared at her. This woman I'd built a life with, this woman who used to laugh with me under the stars on a cabin porch. "You chose this. Every time you let them in our house, you chose us over them." She nodded slowly. "I know, and I hate myself for it."
Good, I said. You should. And then I shut the door behind her. Not with anger, just with finality, like closing a chapter in a book you never thought would end this way.
It's been 8 months. The house is quieter now, but not in a bad way. Emily and I go on walks sometimes. No words, just presence. I transferred to a teaching position on base. No more deployments. I needed to be here. The bedroom's different. Fresh paint, new sheets, no ghosts. I still think about it sometimes. About them, about her. But it doesn't control me anymore. One night, Emily handed me an old photo, the 3 of us at the beach years ago. She said, "We don't have to forget. Just stop letting it hurt." And somehow, that made sense.